Shalom, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Salutation and salutations to the brothers out there that are laboring and pushing this truth and in sincerity and in charity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. To you I say Shalom, to the Akim and to the Akwath, that'll be you brothers and sisters, Adawan Ratazah, that is to say, Lord willing, hopefully by the end of this lesson, you be edified. This is your brother Amawan Ibad from the GMS Miami camp, Heralds of Yahweh Shai 144, back again with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, to feed the lambs of Yahweh Shai as commanded. This lesson is going to be going into the prophecy of World War III. Okay? The prophecy of World War III and the weak saying I'm strong. Okay? All right? So, again, the title for this lesson is going to be Let the Weak Say I'm Strong. World War III prophecy. Okay? Let the weak say I'm strong. World War III prophecy. Okay? That's what's coming to fruition, man. All right? That's what's going to be fulfilled. Okay? All roads leads to prophecy. All right? This lesson specifically dealing with, all right, the nations gearing up and being gathered. All right? Because the Lord, all right, remember the scripture say, the Lord mustereth the host of the battle. All right? Is the Most High was gathering these nations. All right? By having the angels work on the mind of these kings. All right? You don't have free will. Man's goings of the Lord. And Proverbs 21 and verse 1 tell you that the heart of the king, all right, it's in the hand of the Lord, and he turneth it whithersoever he will. All right? We know that word heart in the Hebrew is lab, which means your mind. Okay? And we know at the end of the day, it is the counsel of the Lord that's going to stand. All right? The counsel of the Lord, that's going to stand. All right? The Lord is going to do all his pleasure. All right? Now, we living in a time where, all right, we seeing these nations, all right, jockeying for position because they're being gathered. Okay? The book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, is playing out because you got these nations, all right, especially they saw what just happened in Venezuela, all right. So these nations saying to themselves, all right, they're gonna have to come together and join forces, and they're gonna have to spend money, all right, to defend themselves. That's according to prophecy. Okay. Now, what sparked this lesson is I just saw an article just now on Natural News. Okay. And I'm gonna read that article, and then we're gonna get some precepts, okay, to back it up. But I'm gonna start here in the book of Joel, showing you that at the end of the day, this is the Most High's plan. Okay, this is Joel chapter 3, and I'm gonna jump in here at verse 2. It says, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, when you read it verbatim, but we know that to be Yahweh-Shaphat, all right, the Lord's judgment, all right. It says, and will plead with them there, meaning to judge these nations for the controversy of Zion, right? It says, and will plead, meaning to judge, with them there for my people, right, the Israelites, and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and powdered my land. So this is for the controversy of Zion. The Lord said he's going to gather these nations together. So that's a future prophecy, man. Okay? And the Lord is gathering these nations together. When you read Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, it tells you how Gog is going to be a guard unto these nations. So now you have these different nations who are weak, once was weak, right? But now they're starting to invest into themselves, okay? And they're going to level out the playing field, because they're going to take away from the agriculture, the spending that they usually do on the agriculture, all right? Or things they do to prop up their economy, and they're going to start putting it into their military, okay? Start building their armies, okay? So I have, like I say, I found an article here real quick. Let's go and read some of this article, then we're going to get the featured scriptures. All right, so this is Natural News. Let me put up a quick disclaimer, okay? I don't own this article, nor do I have the right to this article. So my disclaimer would be the Copyright Act of 1976, all right, under Section 107, fair use, all right? Fair use could be used because I'm not profiting from this, okay? This is just for educational purposes, all right? So again, my disclaimer is Copyright Act of 1976, under Section 107, fair use, all right? Which gives way for things like teaching, okay, news reporting, okay, things of that nature, all right? I'm not profiting from this. So, again, the article is entitled, Asia Arms Up. This is from Natural News, all right? And this is January 8, 2026. So this is just yesterday. It says, Asia arms up. Military spending surges as regional tensions reach boiling point. See that? Asia arms up. Military spending surges as regional tensions reach boiling point. See? That goes in accordance with the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, beginning at the 9th verse. And we're going to read some of that, but let's read the article. So it says here, I see a few bulletin points. Let me read one or two. This is Asian military spending is surging due to regional tensions as doubts about U.S. protection. China leads with $320 billion budget, driving its military modernization and ambitions. It says Japan has dramatically increased defense spending, overturning decades of pacifist policy. It says the U.S. is explicitly urging allies to spend more to counter an imminent Chinese threat. Another bulletin point that says the arms race risk unintended conflict and marks of a volatile new chapter in Asian security. So you see, according to the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, which we're going to get into, this is on point with prophecy, man. So it says the balance of power in Asia is being redrawn, right? It says, not by diplomacy, but by checkbooks. Over the past 5 years, military expenditure across the region has climbed sharply. It says, fueled by escalating territorial disputes, nuclear threats, and a growing perception that the era of guaranteed American protection is over. From the East China Sea to the Indian Ocean, nations are investing heavily in new missiles, drones, and ships, preparing for a future where conflict seems less a possibility and more a probability. See that? It says, according to recent data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, acronym SIPRI, it says the figures are staggering. China remains the region's undisputed top spender, with its military budget growing by more than 20% between 2020 and 2024 to approximately $320 billion. See that? The massive investment is driven by Beijing's armed forces modernization and its expansive territorial ambitions. Following behind, India has increased its spending by 8% to 84 billion, prioritizing technological advancement and border disputes. Saudi Arabia, facing Middle East instability, boosted its budget by 13% to 79 billion. It says a dramatic shift in the Pacific's powerhouse. You see that? It says perhaps the most symbolic shift is occurring in Japan, a nation long defined by its post-war pacifist constitution. Japan has accelerated defense investments by over 40% in recent years, with its military budget reaching 71 billion, significantly surpassing South Korea's spending. Parliament recently approves spending 2% of GDP on defense, a landmark target reached 2 years ahead of schedule. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi stated the security environment surrounding Japan has become extremely severe, and therefore I believe that strengthening our defense capabilities is indispensable. It says this momentous change underscores a dramatic rethink in Tokyo, prompted by China's military buildup, North Korea's missile tests, and anxieties over the reliability of the U.S. alliance. As international security expert Ken Jimbo noted, the U.S. no longer views it necessary to engage in a conflict where it doesn't really affect the U.S. national interest directly. Japan's goal, officials say, it is to show it is a serious ally and to stand on our own feet as much as possible. It says the American push for allied spending. The call for Asian nations to open their wallets has been echoed loudly from Washington at last year's Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a direct warning. It has to be clear to all that Beijing is credibly preparing to potentially use military force to alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. He said the threat China poses is real and it could be imminent. Hegseth called on U.S. allies in the region to follow the example of European nations and upgrade their own defenses. See? Deterrence doesn't come in the cheap, he argued, stating that shared burden allows the U.S. to increase its focus on the Indo-Pacific as its priority theater. The push comes as the Trump administration plans a significant increase on American defense spending. So see, everybody is spending, man. It says other hotspots are following suit. Taiwan, under constant pressure from Beijing, increased its military spending by 37% over 5 years, focusing on asymmetric defense capabilities. South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung announced an 8.2% boost to the defense budget for this year, stating to ensure peace and prosperity for the Republic of Korea, we must not depend on anyone else but strengthen our own power. See that? Now, there's a little more on this to read, but I mean, you get the point. I don't think I got to read more on this. Okay, let's get to the scriptures. Okay, now we can continue back in the book of Joel, and we're going to jump down to verse 9, because that explains the whole point. All right? And remember, at the end of the day, this is all fulfilling prophecy, man. The Most High mustered the host of the battle. He's bringing this together. Okay? Revelation chapter 16 and verse 16. The Most High, the Lord said, you're going to gather them together in the valley of Armageddon. All right? This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. See? Man's will, all right, man, there's no such thing as free will. There is none that can resist the will of the Lord. All right? They're doing this because this is going to fulfill prophecy, man. Okay? It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. See? Oh, this is the point. The article we just read, right? It says, this is verse 10, showing that it's going to fulfill prophecy. It says, Joel 3:10, beat your plowshares into swords. Plowshares, they are farming tools, but it says beat it into swords, which is weapons of war. And it says, and your pruning hooks into spears. Pruning hooks are farming tools, right? Into spear. A spear is something like what you go to war with, right? It says, let the weak say I'm strong. So the nations that were weak, all right, they becoming strong because what they're doing, they defend spending now. They spending on defense. So they're becoming strong to fulfill prophecy. All right? And that's what's going to happen. Verse 11, it says, assemble yourselves and come. See? All ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. See? Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which we know to be Yahweh Shabbat, the Lord's judgment, Yahweh judgment. It says, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. See? So, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That's what it's about, man. That's what's going on. I quoted Revelation 16 and 16. Let me go to that and read it. Revelation chapter 16 and verse 16. Okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to read verse 12 because this fulfills prophecy also. The Euphrates River is drying up. Okay? That's according to prophecy. Let's read it. Revelation chapter 16 and verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Right. Do a Google search and you'll see that the Euphrates River is drying up, man. That's the fulfilled prophecy. Okay? To make way for the kings of the east. Okay? Jumping down to verse 16, it says, and he gathered them. Who's the he? The Most High. And he gathered them, because he mustered the host of the battle. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. All right? Okay? Har, Gad. Okay, Har meaning mountain. Gad meaning troop. The one make it plural. Okay, mountain of troops. Okay, Harmagad one. Okay, so this is the Most High doing, man. So these nations, okay, they leveling the playing field because they refocusing where they spend their money now. All right, so the playing field is going to be leveled out. Okay, and things are going to go according to prophecy, man. All right, even Babylon going to lose even her allies, man. Revelation 17 and I think it's 16. Chapter 17, verse 16, Revelation goes into how the beast shall hate the whore, man. They're going to even lose their allies, man. Okay? Babylon the Great. Okay? So I'm going to end it there, Lord, willing you were edified, giving all honor, glory, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakodash. That be honest and the elders and apostles of Great Millstone and taught me this truth and rule well. Salutation and salutations to the brothers out there that are laboring and pushing this truth in truth and in sincerity and in charity, risking their lives and the freedom to do so. With that, until the next time, Shalom.